to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffin. Joining me, we're not in the studio, but joining me as ever is Blake Harrison. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm a little tired because it's a Saturday morning and I was working till 4 a.m. And you've got sleepy eyes.
It's not a Saturday morning for me, mate.
No?
It is Saturday evening for me. What is it, about 9 p.m.? Because I'm in Brisbane, Australia. You can tell I've been working on my accent. I'm going to be working over here for a little bit. So our episodes are going to be a bit all over the shop with time differences and trying to fit it all in and stuff. And we were actually going to have this week off. But then I've finished work one day and you were going to be awake in like a couple of hours, and I just left you a voice note or something being like, have you seen the news?
I thought there'd been some like massive atrocity somewhere. And I was like, oh my God, what's happened? It's like, even bigger than that. Look what the UFC just said.
It came out of nowhere, man. Dana White just got on it. And this whole episode is about the announcements that were made on, I think, depending on your time zone, like Thursday afternoon or whatever it was, Wednesday night, Thursday afternoon, whatever it might have been. And it's gone mental. So before we start, we probably should mention Fat Candy.
Absolutely. If you're flagging and you're a little bit sleepy, like Blake and I, Blake's jet lagged.
Skittles right now. Oh, man. The jet lag has been a bit of a pain in the ass. I mean, it was a good, 26, 27-hour flight.
You need that sweet, sugary hit.
I do. So I might have to get on the Fat Candy website, fatcandy.com, and put in my little discount code. Sweet MMA, that's SWEET MMA. Get myself some Skittles
and save some money.
Save some money with the discount code and get onto Fat Candy and get my sugary treats to try and get me through some of these podcasts that we're going to have coming up at all hours of the day and night.
Because this is the thing, isn't it? It's like when it's normal time for us UK listeners, you're like all over the place, aren't you? You're like middle of the night or like first thing in the morning. It's going to be tricky.
It's tricky. It's like a 10-hour difference. So it is going to be tricky, but we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work.
At any given point, one of us is going to look like shit.
But it looks like it's me at the moment. Jesus. I'm genuinely ready for bed. I've been going to bed at about 9 o'clock, sometimes even before 9 o'clock over the last few days. Wow. I've been up at 3, up at 4. And straight into work. I arrived at like 11 p.m. Sunday night. Within 12 hours, I was at work. So, it's been hit the ground running over it. But can't complain. Happy to be working. So happy to be working. No. Genuinely. As any long-time listeners of this show knows, 2023 was pretty quiet for me. So I am never knocking working at the moment. So, it's been all right the last few months. So I cannot complain.
Are you, at some point before you come home and we do one of these, are you going to be darker skinned than me?
No, I won't. Because obviously for continuity purposes on when filming, I have to stay my pale and horrible looking self. So I can't even get a tan. Like the makeup, I've already said to me, like you got factor 50, yeah? You've got factor 50? And I'm like, yeah, don't worry, I'm all right, I got it. Because if I get a tan or red marks anywhere or anything, it messes up continuity and I have to either cover it, whatever
Blake
else.
Harrison, the palest man in Australia.
They will, honestly, it will be. And I'm going to be out here for 2 months and just, there's nothing I can, I can't get a tan, can't look good, none of it. And the character I'm playing is, quite a pale, meek little thing. So that's what's going down.
Okay, well, what's going down in the UFC? What's happened? Where are we going to start? Well, so much to talk about.
So much to talk about. But the biggest news has got to be Ilia Topuria vacates the featherweight belt and wants to move up to lightweight. I mean, this definitely caught me by surprise. It seems like, I know Helwani was talking on his show about the weight cut being a potential issue. That surprised me a bit. I mean, Ilia Topuria is about 5'7". Yes, he's a thick man, but he never looked like he was huge for the weight class, or like, Max Holloway is a very different body type to Ilia Topuria, but he's like 6 foot, Max Holloway, or whatever he is. Like, I'm surprised that the weight cut was that big of an issue for him going into this. But clearly, it must be. Helwani also mentioned that the UFC aren't too keen on the champ stuff. They've got many pay-per-views to fill through the calendar year, and they want title fights at the top of those cards, usually 2 title fights at the top of those cards. So they can't be dealing with parking a belt like the featherweight title. And let's be honest, there's contenders for that belt. We'll get on to what's happening with that belt after this, but that division was by no means cleared out. There's Movsar Evloev, undefeated title challenger potentially. Diego Lopez, the rematch with Volk. There are people to still fight in that weight class. So, yeah. So I'm assuming it's more the weight cut than anything else. But that did surprise me when that was cited as like what the main reason for him vacating the belt. And he loses all the pay-per-view points now. It's a big risk, a big risk to go, I'm now going to forego all those pay-per-view points. You wonder if the UFC has sweetened his kind of standard contract or anything like that. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on it when you heard it? Were you surprised? Because I was pretty shocked.
So I just saw the announcement, like that when Dana made the video that he put on the socials, and I just my initial thoughts were, oh, thank God. Thank God Volk is not going to have to fight him. That was my first response.
I hear you.
But I also thought, before knowing, and a lot of what you've just said has resonated further now as well. But I thought, fair play, mate. Like, because you are maybe behind Pereira, the most exciting fighter, superstar in the making in the UFC, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a valid comment.
And I think you probably could fight again. Took that Volk fight, probably have beaten Volk, and then gone, I'm just gonna let me fight Islam, and then I'll decide if I'm gonna stay there or come down. And I thought he's vacated that. And I thought that's pretty cool that he's done that, because that is a big gamble. And I was really surprised. I thought he would have tried to have kept hold of that strap and gone for the other, and had that double strap legacy. But yeah, so mostly I'm just thinking, thank God he's not going to be putting his hands on Volk. That makes me happy.
I completely agree. I know I had that similar thought too. Like, everyone knows we're huge Volk fans on this show, but the thought of him stepping back in the Oscar with Ilia Topuria did fill me with dread a little bit. So this is a lot more palatable. It's a lot nicer, and it feels like he has, in terms of for the fans and for the honor of it all, he's done this the right way. He's vacated. He's got to move up. But will he regret this decision when he's looking down at that paycheck coming his way, and it's got 1-0 less on it or whatever it is, because he's losing all the pay-per-view points?
Do you think that sweetener was if you vacate and move up, you go straight to a shot because Sarukian's not getting it. We'll give you the shot straight away.
Well, this is the thing that I can't quite work out yet. I mean, on one hand, yes, he is arguably the most interesting opponent for Islam Makhachev at the moment. I'm going to say outside of Arman Sarukian, because as we saw with the fight that didn't happen a couple of pay-per-views ago, Arman now needs to get one more before he can fight for the title, because that's the way the UFC sort of want to punish him, I guess, if you want to see it in that vein.
So that potentially could be Ilia Topuria. You never know.
Well, so this is the big question. He's made a huge sacrifice here by vacating the belt. You would think on one hand, he must have some kind of assurances that he's going to get to fight Islam straight away and go for that lightweight title. However, Islam Makachev has come out and said, I don't want to keep fighting featherweights. One of the biggest knocks on Islam's resume is everyone he's beat was at one point a featherweight. Oliveira, Poirier, Moicano, Volk twice. I don't have a problem with him fighting people that were featherweights. I think of Poirier and Oliveira very much as lightweights now.
Yeah, agreed.
But that has been a criticism of him. My criticisms are more Volk stepped in on 12 days' notice in that second fight, and Moicano stepped in on a few hours' notice. And that's not Islam Makhachev's fault. That's just the cards that he was dealt. But people are critical of Islam Makhachev and the fact that he's only really beaten featherweights. So if he fights Ilia Topuria, does he gain anything by beating him? Or do people go, well, yeah, but he's a small featherweight, so of course you were going to beat him. So I can see from Islam's point of view that he goes, I don't want to fight this guy. There's nothing in it for me. So let him go and prove himself to be a proper contender. In which case, does Ilia Topuria have to fight Arman Sarukian or a Dustin Poirier maybe, or a Charles Oliveira, and prove that he can hang with the best of the best at lightweight before he gets his title shot?
I don't think so. I think to vacate, there was a conversation with the UFC where they said, all right, I think he gets Islam. I really do. I think they're not giving it to Sarukian. They made that clear. And I think, what else is there in that division?
But if Sarukian beats Topuria, then Sarukian's getting the shot, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I also, Islam looks at featherweights and says, I've done it all. But if you look at what fighter gave him his biggest test, Volk.
The first fight with Volk,
yeah,
I would
of course,
say.
yeah.
Poirier gave him a decent test at points in that fight, though.
Yeah.
As well.
I don't think Topuria is going to struggle at lightweight. He's not stupid. He's not going to have just walked away from a belt unless he was confident. His confidence must be sky high anyway.
It's so high, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite a gangster move as well, isn't it? Oh, I've just taken out Volk, taken out Max. I'm just going to vacate and move up to lightweight because this division's got nothing for me, or so he thinks. Yeah. And as I said, the confidence is crazy. Yeah. And Islam Makhachev is the pound best fighter on the planet at the moment. That is some balls on him, isn't it?
Right, I've got a little weird one, right? I've got a little weird one.
Go on.
All right. So we'll get onto that fight in a bit, right? But let's just imagine, you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
No.
So let's imagine, right? Ilia goes up, right? And I believe he will beat Islam. I really do, right?
You can't just throw that. No.
Hang on. No, bear with me, mate. I'm going well road here. I'm going well road. Bear with me, brother.
Oh, no.
Right? Paddy Pimblett beats Michael Chandler. Eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, of course, if the UFC can make that happen for a belt, they'll make it happen. There is a real chance that we get Paddy versus Topuria at some point, I suppose, even if Topuria is just going up and he loses to Islam, there's still a world in which Paddy Pimblett fights Ilia Topuria. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's some kind of outlandish thing to think. Topuria beating Makachev, are you saying it's so blasé and so just, yeah, of course, no problem? That baffles me.
Why would you question Ilia Topuria?
Why would you question Islam Makhachev?
Because I think Islam has shown, like, in that first Volk fight, you could see that there's things that look like they're not necessarily big strengths. And I think if you look at Ilia at the moment, why would you question anything? Like,
I mean, it looks.
It's a great fight.
It's a great fight. I would watch it. I'm not saying Topuria can't win, but I think when they go face to face at a face-off, it will look like a bantamweight fighting a welterweight. That's why I think the size will be almost comical. Islam is a big dude.
Yeah.
And Topuria, again, he's a thick, stocky guy, but he's short. And I think size is going to matter hugely in that fight.
Hits like a truck.
It does, but Islam is an incredibly sound defensive striker. He knows what he's doing. He's very, very defensively sound. And again, I'm not saying that Topuria can't win the fight. I'm just saying Islam, for me, would be the favorite. He's got the size. We know Topuria can wrestle, but can he wrestle as well as Islam when Islam is going to be so much bigger than him?
We're speculating over this, right? He must have had so many nights laying there thinking about that, so many conversations with his team, with his coaches, before he made the decision to go, I don't want that belt I've spent my whole life working towards, because I know where my destiny is and I know what I can do. He would know better than any of us. And he wouldn't have done that unless he thought, I'm going straight through that guy.
You make a compelling argument, you do. But Islam is the best in the world at the moment. And until someone comes along and beats him,
yeah,
I will favour Islam in every single fight he has.
Okay. Well, look, I guess what that means next is, I'm presuming this is next what you've got on your notes, that this now leaves Alexander the Great Volkanovski is now fighting Lopez for the belt.
For the vacant belt. I'm going to have to apologise, not just to people watching this on YouTube, but also to our editor, Chris, because I'm doing this on a wobbly table and every now and again I'm just leaning on it. And it is like, must look like I'm doing this on a boat. It's all over.
I've not seen it moving. I think it's your jet lag. I think you're seeing things.
But yeah, I'm just honestly, God, when I came off the plane and I was in Brisbane, there were moments where I was just stood straight on the floor and I felt like the floor was going beneath me.
Weird, isn't it?
It's weird. Being on a plane for that long just messes with your head. Anyway. Yes, as you said, featherweight vacant title. Diego Lopez now fighting Alexander Volkanovski. This is at UFC 314 in Miami, which is a card as well. But, at the top of it, I suppose the question is this the right fight to make? Topuria vacates. You need a vacant title fight. Was this the right fight to make?
I think so. So. Yeah. Do you think otherwise?
Well, I would have said Evloev arguably is more of a rightful contender than Diego Lopez, but there's a couple of factors with that. One, I think Evloev is, I think Ramadan's coming up soon. And so Evloev's timing-wise wouldn't have been very good for him because of Ramadan. But also, I think the UFC, that might just be a happy coincidence because Diego Lopez is a far more popular fighter than Evloev. Diego Lopez is, I really like Diego Lopez. I love his fight style. I love his crazy mullet. He seems like a nice guy. Like, I really like Diego Lopez as a fighter. And we all know Volk is like the nicest guy in MMA. So both these guys going at it is kind of wonderful, really. It's a shame someone has to lose and all that kind of stuff, but it's great. However, for me, Volk is just another tier of nice guy, funny guy, legend. And I don't know if there's going to be many people outside of Brazil. Lopez is from Brazil, isn't he? He trains in Mexico, I think, but he's from Brazil. I don't think there's going to be many people outside Brazil, maybe Mexico, that want Lopez to beat Volk. I think everyone's going to be cheering Volk on. But yeah, I mean, how does that fight go, I guess? I know obviously we'll get into this when we do a preview show, but my immediate thoughts are if Volk can get past the first 2 rounds, I think he can really cause Lopez some problems. But the fact that we've seen Volk knocked out, is it his last 2 fights? Was it Topuria and before that, the second Islam fight? Knocked out twice in a row. Lopez is a big boy and he hits hard and he's young and he's athletic. Again, that I would be watching that fight for the first 2 rounds sort of through my fingers, just like scared that Lopez catches Volk on the chin. But hopefully not. I mean, Volk would be far and away Lopez's most toughest opponent by a long, long way.
Yeah.
So if Volk can find the range early, get the strikes going and avoid the big shots, then I think we could see Volk as a 2-time featherweight champ, which it just puts such a big smile on my face.
That would be incredible. I also am a big fan of Lopez as well. I think I think he's been a really exciting fighter to watch over the last few years, and I think deserves a shot. And I think this will be a really interesting fight. I think we're going to see Volk kind of take down, like, maul him, ground and pound. I think that's the style. I think he's not going to probably stand and trade, hopefully. Like, I think he's going to kind of try and maul him a bit.
Weird, because both options are risky. When you look back at the Evloev-Lopez fight, Lopez nearly submitted Evloev twice. It was really close. Like, it's another Brian Ortega situation here where Volk has to be like that ridiculously strong neck that just can't get choked out or something. And maybe
look,
he has to...
We're coming at this from a narrative of, like, Volk's washed up and, like...
No,
and,
not at all. I'm coming at this from a narrative of Lopez is dangerous on the feet. He's also dangerous on the ground. And I think it's not that Volk is necessarily washed up. I worry about his chin. But also, I don't think Volk has the finishing capabilities that Lopez has.
Oh, yeah, that's undeniable. Like, I agree.
But I mean that on the ground as well. Lopez on the ground can finish you. He has got great jiu-jitsu. And Volk, we've seen him ground and pound and do something like the Yair Rodriguez fights. But like, yes, he is brilliant. But I just think Lopez is dangerous everywhere. So just saying, Volk should take him down or something like that, that is by no means an easy path to take. It may be safer than striking, but maybe not. I don't know. Lopez on the ground is pretty lethal.
But let's not forget everything that Volk has done, because he's no joke. He's Alexander Volkanovski. There's a reason that he's one of the most loved fighters in the world. Not just the fact that, he does great videos about his barbecues and he's a really nice guy. He's a fucking dangerous fighter, a super, super dangerous fighter. And I think if you look at them losses, you cast your mind back, gave the pound for pound best on the world, like, an absolutely tight fight, which I gave it to Volk, the first one. Yep. And then the second one, obviously, that was quite unpleasant, but obviously, and then you see Topuria, and I think we're going to go on to watch Topuria become an all-time legend. I really do. And I think, it's only 2 losses, and I know they were both horrible losses, and you wonder what toll that will take on, an aging fighter's mindset as well as physical capabilities of taking shots and stuff. So I think if you cast your mind back, it wasn't that long ago that you'd never have betted against Volk. And I think there's some gods up there that are shining down on him and going like, this is your chance. And I think he'll beat Lopez. And I hope when they put the belt around him, he retires.
I think if he gets the belt back, he's no way retiring.
You don't think so?
No, he'll fight Evloev next or something.
I
think Evloev maybe has more chance to beat Volk, but less chance to finish Volk. So maybe that's an easier fight. I don't know. It's a tricky one, that. But I do think that if he wins, there's no way. I don't even know if he retires if he loses. But if he wins.
Did you see the videos of him training this week?
No.
Volk. There's sparring with Sterling, Aljo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I don't know. I really hope I just don't want to see him get caught on the chin, because Lopez has finished some people with strikes, and it's a bit scary. But that is going to be a really fascinating fight. It's going to be interesting. Volk fighting for the belt again and not against Topuria makes me feel a lot happier.
Yes.
No, I agree with you. Now, look, the next biggest story coming out of all this is the 5-round co-main event between Paddy Pimblett and Makhachev. But I just want to park that for a second, because there's something that may link into all of this, depending on how the chips kind of fall. UFC have signed Patricio Pitbull. He's kind of Mr. Bellator. I believe he was a two-time, or just a one-time, like featherweight champion over in Bellator. Also challenged for the bantamweight belt, but that didn't go his way. He's kind of a Mr. Bellator. He's arguably the Bellator GOAT, Patricio Pitbull. He's going to be fighting Yair Rodriguez on this card. Now, this is maybe a shame that Pitbull didn't come over like 4 years earlier. He's now about 37 years old. But we've got a situation here where there is a high-level featherweight fight that could be used as the backup fight for Volk versus Lopez. And if something were to happen during fight week, Yair Rodriguez has already lost to Volk, and in quite comprehensive fashion. I don't think they'd give him another shot against Volk. Maybe they'd put him against Lopez. But I think actually what's more interesting is Patricio Pitbull coming in as a backup fighter to fight either Volkanovski or Diego Lopez, depending on how that could go if someone were to fall out. And a win against Yair Rodriguez puts Pitbull in the top 5. And there's a very strong possibility that Pitbull could be fighting for the belt, because I know this is horrible on Movsar Evloev, but you can see a world where they actually pick Pitbull to fight for the belt over Evloev because they just don't seem to like him very much. What are your thoughts on Pitbull coming over to the UFC?
Too late.
Yeah.
But, we've seen it with MVP, again, another fighter that I think come to the UFC too late. But, again, like MVP, I think we will get fun fights. I don't necessarily... I do think there's a level between Bellator and UFC. I do think that there is a level up at the UFC, but Pitbull has shown himself in Bellator to be of a ridiculously high level. And it's whether that's sustainable when you start fighting some of the younger guns in that division in the UFC. And I think it makes for some fun fights. And I think if he does beat Yair, as we said, the UFC, they don't seem to like Evloev. And I think, right, who do they want as a champ? Like, they do not want Evloev as a champ. 100%. Yeah. And like you say, if they can, have a fighter in there that's got a resume like Pitbull. Also, Patricio Pitbull. What a cool name for a fighter. And like, no, that is, that looks good on a poster. And I think
I'd argue his brother's got a cooler name.
Yeah,
Tricky Pitbull.
Yeah. And I also think I'd be interested to know what he's going to do. But I don't know. I think there's some fun fights to be had there, and I don't necessarily. I'm interested to see how he fares. I think Yair Rodriguez is not an easy fight for anyone, and I think that is a really good test to see if he can roll with the top 5 in that division.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, that should be good fun. Let's move on now to what is arguably bigger news than that. Paddy Pimblett is getting a 5-round co-main event at UFC 314 in Miami. He's the co-main to Volk Lopez.
What a card!
What a card! Yeah, and he's against Michael Chandler. I mean, is this the best matchmaking that Paddy could have hoped for in the top of that lightweight division? Is there anyone that would have been a quote-unquote easier or more high-profile fight than Michael Chandler?
Profile, probably not. I don't think there's any easy fights in that division. Certainly not for Paddy, and I don't think this is, an easy fight for Paddy. I think this could potentially, this could be a bad matchup for Paddy. So what I want to say is,
funny because I think this is the best matchmaking Paddy could have had by quite a long way.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say though?
So I look at how, like Chandler hits very hard. He's such an explosive fighter. Solid wrestling. And so, if you was to watch a highlight reel of Michael Chandler and watch a highlight reel of Paddy, you know where you'd put your money. But, I mean, I don't even, when you start to think about Chandler's record at the moment, where's he at win and lose wise over the last? I don't think it makes for particularly great viewing. He's quite. Is he? What is he like? 3 losses under bounce?
Let's look this up. I'm just getting it up now. So Michael Chandler. No, he's only lost 2 on the bounce. So Michael Chandler's UFC run has been mad. He is 2-4 in the UFC. Dan Hooker win, Charles Oliveira lost in a fight that he was about to win at one point. It was a great fight. Justin Gaethje, another sort of fight of the night type thing. He lost that. Beat Tony Ferguson with that front kick to the face. Then lost to Dustin Poirier in another fantastic fight. And then lost to Charles Oliveira again in a less exciting fight. He had some moments towards the end, but Oliveira pretty much did what he wanted to him until that 5th round. And now he's got Paddy.
I think Chandler is a fan favourite because he does throw it all in there. And I think that does make him a huge fan favourite. And I think, that record, when you look at it like that, it is definitely the best matchup for Paddy in that division at the moment. Huge name with a very mixed record.
I mean, let me just look. Paddy's 12th, Michael Chandler's 7th. Between Paddy and Chandler is Rafael Fiziev, much tougher fight. Renato Moicano, I would say a tougher fight. Beneil Dariush, possibly a tougher fight.
I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I think Dariush is maybe a tougher fight than Chandler. Mateus Gamrot, I would say a tougher fight. And then above Chandler, you got Dan Hooker, Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, Gaethje, Oliveira, Sarukian, and for different reasons, I don't think Paddy was going to get those fights. They're just a little bit too high up, or they're booked already. I think this was the best matchmaking. If you want to get Paddy Pimblett a win, I think this was the best matchup you could possibly give him. But equally, in a lot of people's eyes, Paddy is a winnable fight for Chandler as well. So it kind of is, as I say, it's good matchmaking.
I understand why people think that. I think, you look at the physique of Chandler, and you watch his fight style, and you just think and you look at Paddy's fight style with his arms low, you just think, oh, he's going to knock his block off. And I think it's easy to think that. But what I've definitely learned over the last few years, and I'm a fan of Paddy, he's been on the show, multiple times. He's been really good to the show. What I've definitely learned since he's been in the UFC, maybe, what was the one fight that I didn't actually think he won?
Darren Jordan.
Yeah, that was a little bit questionable, that one. But apart from that, like that whole business of like hands by his side and like his chin's a bit high, if anyone was going to expose that, it was going to be Bobby Green. And Bobby Green did not do that. And I've learned there.
We've had this conversation before.
He shooted for it, and he shouldn't have shouldn't have shot. But I'm not doubting Paddy. I'm not going to question him as much as I have done in the past. I'm just because he's winning, and
I think Paddy beats Chandler.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, I do. I think Paddy beats Chandler. I mean, look, Chandler could always land a big.
Do you think the jiu-jitsu is better than his wrestling?
I actually think Paddy could potentially get it done on the feet as well.
Wow.
Like, I just think they both get hit. Chandler probably hits harder, but I think that Paddy has more to offer on the feet. He's younger. He's very durable as well, Paddy. Yeah, I mean, Oliveira was able to get on top of Michael Chandler and give him some real problems and really beat him up a lot. And maybe there's a world in which Paddy sees that and goes, I've got great jiu-jitsu. If I can get him down either through strikes or maybe a takedown, but you would imagine with Chandler's wrestling, you'd be able to deal with that. But I think there is a world in which Paddy can get on top of Michael Chandler and beat him up on the ground. But I also think there's a world in which he can avoid Chandler's strikes and kick him a lot, low kick him, stunt his movement, all that stuff, and then go, right now I can come in for the kill a little bit more. I think this could be a decision win as well. It doesn't have to be a big finish. I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Chandler got the victory, probably by a knockout, you would imagine. But I would favour Paddy for sure. Yeah, I'd be leaning Paddy in this fight. And then if he does win, then what's next for him? He's in the top 7, I believe it would be. And he's maybe 1 away from a title fight?
Can you, like, he's superstardom, then he's going to be stratospheric. He's beat Michael Chandler, one of the most popular fighters in the organisation. I think they could easily fast track him. I think if Ilia does go up and beats Makachev and Ilia's got that belt, you never know. You never know.
I mean, there's definitely a world. If Ilia were to beat Makachev and Paddy beats Chandler, there is definitely a world in which Ilia's first title fight is Paddy Pimblett.
What a world we live in.
It would be big business. It would be big business. And if not, then the winner of Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker, that is a fight maybe Paddy can have.
I think Paddy beats Dan Hooker.
He very well could do.
Have you seen the quote from Dan Hooker this week about the Gaethje fight? It was fantastic.
Oh, remind me of it.
It was something along the lines of whether I get my hand raised or Gaethje gets his hand raised. Once that moment's done, I know I'm being put on a stretcher and taken to hospital.
Yeah. He's great, Dan Hooker, and I do love Dan Hooker. But yeah, I think there's a world in which they've match made for Paddy Pimblett in the best way possible. And oh my God, it is like the hotel I'm staying in, downstairs there's a little cafe bar, and one of the meals you can get is the Paddy Pimblett. in Brisbane. I'm going to have to take a photo of it and send it to you. I'm going to have to order it one day and just say I'm ordering the Paddy Pimblett and send it to you. But
that's a video for the socials. The listeners are going to watch that. That's the video for the socials.
All right. I'll send it to Chris and he can edit some stuff, make it look good.
Let's do it.
Because I know I can't. But yeah, the Paddy Pimblett. So yeah, anyway, that is that moment of UFC 314. And just to add a little extra to that, Jeff Neal is fighting Carlos Prates. Great fight.
That's a superb
fight. And Yan
fight.
Jianan is fighting Virna Jandiroba. And if Virna Jandiroba wins that,
that's a title shot.
Ironclad the next strawweight contender for Zhang Weili. The other big announcements, they kept coming the other day. Shavkat Rakhmonov was offered to fight Belal, but as we know from the Ian Gary fight, he tore his MCL or something along those lines, is not fit and ready to fight. And as we know, the UFC are less interested in making the fights with the quote-unquote right fighters at the moment, as much as they are interested in, we have a slot to fill on this date. What champion can we use? If you can't fight for the belt, we will find someone else who can. And that's how the UFC operates at the moment. So they had to shuffle the deck and they brought in Jack Della Maddalena. He is no longer fighting Leon Edwards in the London card. He's now getting his title shot against Belal Muhammad at UFC 315. And that left us with a gap in terms of UFC London. Leon Edwards now will fight Sean Brady. So a lot of stuff to unpack there. My first question is, how happy is Belal Muhammad?
Oh, mate, he must just be thinking, whoa, what was that bullet I just dodged there?
Absolutely buzzing. Don't get me wrong, I love Jack Della Maddalena, but if you're Belal Muhammad and you are the wrestler that you are, you're looking at Jack Della and going, yeah, I fancy a bit of that. You're looking at Shavkat and going, he's like finished everyone that's not named Ian Gary, and he's an absolute wrecking machine. I'd really want to avoid him at all costs. So, yeah.
Go on.
Go on. No, go on.
How do you see that going? Like, JDM versus...
Jack Della?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch a couple of things, but my initial thoughts are Jack Della was losing his fight with Gilbert Burns until he won it.
Yep.
Belal is a very good wrestler. We saw what he did to Leon Edwards. I think we could be looking at a Belal title defense here. I know you picked Jack Della to be champion 2026. You may have underestimated how quickly Jack could get it done. But yeah, I think there's a real chance that Belal, for me, has gone from being the underdog in the fight against Shavkat to, I think, the favourite in the fight against Jack Della. Do you see it differently?
No. I unfortunately, it's quite clear that the UFC and the casuals are not interested in Belal Muhammad. As you know, I don't think he'll ever be box office. But he made Leon Edwards look very average, and I thought he looked great. And I know as a Brit, you don't want to see your boy lose, but I think it was such a dominant performance. And I don't think you can question Belal's credentials anymore. And I think also, yes, he's dodged a bullet in Shavkat, but you've also then got to think, well, Ian Gary humanised Shavkat. Injury may be, look into that as much as you want, but I no longer look at Shavkat the way I looked at Shavkat before the Ian Gary fight. I didn't think he was this person that was going to go and dominate everyone so easily, because there was definitely...
For me, that sounds disrespectful to Ian Gary.
No, I thought Ian Gary looked fantastic, and that's the thing. I thought Ian Gary humanised him.
Because Ian Gary, quote unquote, humanised him and looked good against him, Shavkat's not all that anymore. And it's no, Ian Gary's just really good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it was good to see Shavkat tested. And I think the hype behind him was far greater than there's a lot of media attention on Ian Garry, but I don't think people were talking about him in the way that they were talking about Shavkat. And
no, they weren't.
And I think
Shavkat still won the fight.
Yeah, yes, he did. Yes, he did. But yeah, I think Belal would have been thinking, well, I know what I've got to do now. And, there's definitely, from watching that Ian Garry fight, there's things that I would implement into my game plan. I'm sure of that. And
I don't think Belal could. I don't think he's got the skill set to do what Ian was able to do, because I don't think he's got anywhere near the ability on the feet that what Ian Garry does.
No, that's undeniable on the feet.
Right. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's so interesting.
But then again, he's not got anywhere near the skills that Leon Edwards has got on the feet. The technical striking of Leon Edwards is fucking incredible. But look what Belal done. Nullified it that. But
Ian wasn't like, if Ian Garry was shooting double legs on Shavkat and taking him down and dominating him on top, I'd say, Belal's looking at that going, this is easy money for Mildred. But he wasn't. He was matching him on the feet, and then Shavkat was trying to do stuff to Ian, and Ian was sort of nullifying. And then he had that moment, was it the end of like round 5 or 4, whatever it was, where he almost got the choke in, and that was the jiu-jitsu thing. I don't believe that Belal's striking is anywhere near as good as Ian's to be able to deal with Shavkat on the feet in the manner he did, and I don't believe that. I'm not sure about the jiu-jitsu. Obviously, wrestling, yes, Belal's very, very good with his wrestling. But would he have had does he have the jiu-jitsu? That's a question I don't know. I don't actually know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
We're not going to see this fight, so I don't even know why we're talking about it.
You're right. So, but how, was JDM the right choice? Like, would the next guy, obviously, you asked Shavkat, he's injured, he's not available. For me, he was the right choice because he's on a 7-fight win streak. He's got 5 finishes. You could have gone to Ian Garry and said you only just narrowly lost out to Shavkat. Do you want to fight for the belt? You could have gone to a former champion like Kamaru Usman just for the name value. I wouldn't have liked that because he is on a losing streak. But you could have gone to Leon Edwards. You could have gone to Leon instead of him and given Leon a rematch or something like that, make it a trilogy fight. I agree. I don't think that would have been what they did. But what do you think there was anyone other than Jack Della that they could have called upon for this fight?
No, you listed them the way you just did. I think like JDM's record's good. I think he's a fun fighter. I'm really happy for him. I'm a big fan, obviously. I predicted him to be the champ this year. So I'm thrilled that in a few weeks, it could happen, right at the beginning of the year. But what I find interesting is that how do you think that the UFC view Leon Edwards?
I don't know. I think Leon, before winning the belt, was someone they weren't overly keen on. It took him like 9 wins or whatever the hell it was to get to the belt. They removed him from the rankings at one point during COVID and stuff. Like, I don't think they were big Leon Edwards fans.
Yeah.
But I think him head kicking Kamaru Usman, having his post-fight speech and their headshot dead and all that kind of stuff, and the way that all just took off, and the fact that the British market just kind of fell in love with him the way they did. I think now they think of him in a way, kind of a more approving way than what they used to. But I still think they have people that they would rather be champion than him. I think Shavkat is probably one of them. They probably are annoyed with Leon for losing to Belal because they really don't like Belal.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is. But I do think Leon, with one good win, could get back to it, especially if Belal's not the champ. Like if Shavkat, or let's say JDM beats Belal and Leon beats Sean Brady, Shavkat's still the first person they're going to call to fight JDM. But maybe Leon's the next person they call after that. So,
but to get there, he's got to beat Sean Brady. Now, how do you see that?
I don't know. I think...
do you think it's an easier fight than JDM for Leon?
No, because I actually think Leon's game plan with JDM would have been to grapple him. And I think he would have done really well with that game plan, which is why I worry about JDM in the Bilal fight. I think with the Sean Brady one, I think that's a tougher fight. It's such a huge difference stylistically. That's something to be said for JDM as well. He's gone from, I'm fighting Leon Edwards, who's predominantly a striker with sort of low output, to Bilal, who puts pressure on you and then tries to shoot double legs and all that kind of stuff. It's for both Jack Della and for Leon Edwards, these are huge shifts in terms of stylistically for your opponent. I think London has lost out a little bit because I think Jack Della versus Leon was a way more fun and interesting fight. I've heard people say, oh, there's no real difference. You just think they're changeable because they're both good fighters in the welterweight division. I completely disagree. I think London has lost out a little bit because I think Jack Della versus Leon is a really fun scrap. And I think a lot of that will take place or would have taken place on the feet, as much as I think Leon would have tried to grapple him. Yeah. And the London crowd, if Leon is taking down Jack Della and beating him up, the London crowd's going nuts. If Sean Brady is taking down Leon Edwards,
people are starting to think about going on.
Exactly. So I think London has taken a bit of a hit with this one, unfortunately. I just hope Leon's going to be all right and dealing with Sean Brady. Sean Brady will be looking at that Bilal fight and going, oh, I can just do what Bilal did. So Leon has to learn from that, because Leon dealt with Usman in that second fight really well.
Takedown defense was fantastic against Usman.
Yeah, he had moments in the first fight of Usman, but then struggled a bit. And obviously he dealt with Colby very, very easily as well. So Leon has to have, that kind of experience of dealing with the wrestlers and now take the negatives from the Bilal fight and make them positives and go, where did I go wrong there? What happened with the takedown defense? Was it that I wasn't being as active as I should have been? Was I too much on the back foot and allowed him to just come at me? And that meant I had to raise my hands and I wasn't able to defend the takedowns. Whatever it is, whatever the game plan is, he has to learn from the Bilal fight. And I also think that's Sean Brady.
I don't think Leon was turned up that night anyway. Like there was so much about it.
It wasn't like 7 a.m. as well, wasn't it?
Correct,
it was like
correct.
The crazy overnight card, which was really fucking annoying.
But something wasn't right that night. He just didn't. I don't know. There weren't a lot of zip to his game. I thought he weren't there. Well, look, we've hit the hour mark. And one of the other fights that got announced was Chevy's going to be fighting Farrow, which, in the wake of Zhang's masterclass the other week, I think we was all talking and getting excited about, Zhang Chevy, if it could happen. But I think the right fight is being made. Man of Farrow deserves that shot.
It's a weird time in MMA where it feels like justice is being done. Topuria's vacated the belt. Volk not having to fight Topuria. Manon Fiorot gets the title shot she rightly deserves. Things are actually going all right. There's bound to be some negative, horrible news coming out soon, because we don't normally get this kind of thing in MMA.
Yeah, but something really sinister has happened that they've just covered it up with all the hits.
So it's going to be horrible. But yeah, Manon Fiorot has really earned that title shot. She's beat Rose Namajunas. She's beaten Erin Blanchfield. She's on a long, long win streak. It was right for her to fight for the belt. That was the right thing to happen. Obviously, no champ fight for Zhang Weili versus Valentina. However, if Valentina beats Manon Fiorot, then there's no obvious contender at 125 off the top of my head that has done enough to really lay claim to a title shot. So maybe that's when you do it, and maybe the fight's even bigger then. If Valentina gets a win, maybe that fight's even bigger, and we get Valentina versus Yang Weili, which would be great. Although I'm sort of hoping Knox, I believe Manon Fiorot was my pick to be flyweight champ at the end of the year. And Lord knows I'm doing terribly, because I picked Umar, I've picked Topuria. Like, it's all gone wrong for me in the champions pick predictions episode. So come on, Manon Fiorot, I need a win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this was the right thing to happen. I'm really glad that's happening. And we will have to wait and see how that goes. Before we wrap things up, there is one more thing about the Topuria fight that came to my attention I wanted to ask you about. I think I know the answer to this, but if Topuria goes out and beats Islam Makhachev, is that the greatest kind of run of fights we've ever seen?
100%.
Beating Volkanovski. Yes, Volk was coming off of a loss, but he was still one of the pound-for-pound best fighters on the planet. Then he beats Max, who was, I can't remember if he was in the top 10 at the time of pound-for-pound fighters, because he just absolutely starched Justin Gaethje at UFC 300, coming off of one of the biggest moments in UFC history ever. And then to go, and if he were to even just get a decision, even eke out a split decision win over the pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet, to go Volk, Max, Islam, that would be so incredible. Mm-hmm. That would be insane.
Yeah.
I just don't know. You might as well retire after that. I don't know where you go from there.
You know, the ceiling's high for that boy. I think we're going to see some spectacular stuff moving forwards from him, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we'll have to see. Will he get a title shot, or will he have to earn that title shot, which is what I think Islam wants him to do? Will he be fighting Arman Tsarukyan or Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira? Only time will tell. But what we do know is UFC 314 is absolutely freaking stacked. I'm very excited about it. We've got some interesting fights for UFC 315. And we're actually just a few hours away from UFC Seattle starting as we record this. By the time this comes out, that will have already happened, which is why we haven't spoken about it. But that will be happening in just a few hours' time. So I'll be having a sleep and then going to a bar to watch it live in Australia. I think it's like 9 a.m. prelims, midday main card, something like that. So I'll be doing that. And there's a bar down the road from me, and I literally walked past it, and it had a poster outside saying live UFC every weekend. I was like, yeah, here we go. Sunday mornings are sorted while I'm in Brisbane.
Well, I'll leave you to go and watch your dong, and then I'll. It's never going to get boring.
Not for you, anyway.
Oh, wonderful. Well, look, we're back next time. In the meantime, head over to fatcandy.com, use that discount code SWEETMMA. And also, Blake Harrison, your eyes have got more and more closed as the show has gone on. I don't know if that's just my company.
I was just thinking to myself, if I wasn't so tired, I'd be able to come up with a better joke. But there's got to be something in the fact that Fluffy Hernandez is on the undercard of Yadon, Fluffy Yadon.
Oh, wonderful. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, go check out that back catalogue. Go and listen to our episodes with Volk, or with Paddy, or with Dan Hooker, or loads of the other fighters that we've spoken about today. And go and subscribe as well. And if you've not checked out the YouTube channel yet, go over there and have a little look. Other than that, we'll see you next time.
Bye.